Before we start adding back the custom grain pass we just made, I want to show you a technique we can use to preserve the original plate grain. We'll go over this step with a simplified project. If I take a look at the plate here, I'm going to toggle just that and the LUT here. I'm going to take a screenshot of this, turn the exposure up. And now if we look at it, I unsoloed those. What we're looking at now is the plate that's been denoised. And if I compare against the screenshot I took, we don't have noise, right? We're looking at the denoise. So how do we bring back that exact same noise right back on top? It's super easy. Let's take both those pre-comps. Again, this is a great reason why these are kind of separated out. We can take the denoise and the original plate, grab them both and bring them into a new comp. We don't want them to sequence. We actually just want them to be on top of each other. So we've got our new comp, pre-comp here. We've got our plate denoise. It's important that it's the one that's on top if you want to get it right back accurately. We're going to take that top one. We're going to change its blending mode to being subtract. It'll go black immediately. If you crank the exposure really far in the viewer, you will eventually start to see some of that grain. It's all in there. So let's go ahead and bring in this pre-comp. And we can call this AccuGrain is what I just like to call it, but we can call this original grain bring back. The blending mode that you want to put it back on is going to be add, subtract, then add. And as soon as we've done that, you can immediately see the difference here as we bring back the grain. It looks good in a lot of places, but if you look closely, there is some weird stuff you're going to see. In the areas that had high contrast, there's a little bit of artifacting kind of visible almost through it. Same here, if we look at where the plant is, you're catching a little bit of the original plate coming in with that grain pass. So those areas, we aren't going to be able to use this grain technique. So for that, what we're going to want to do is first, we want to make sure that it does not apply the grain to those areas. So an easy way we could do that, we can use the set matte effect, and we can select the parts that we don't want the grain to go on. So for instance, the book that I'm looking at here, it's the CG books layer. Now it's only doing it to that. I need to invert the channel. By default, it's using alpha channel. And the way that we've set up this comp, these layers are already set up. Everybody has alpha. They're kind of all ready to go. We should be able to just source them using set matte and use the alpha from each to dictate where they are. So I inverted that channel. Now we're not applying it to the books. Perfect. We don't want to apply it to the screen. So I'm just going to do duplicate set matte, and instead let's grab the monitors, and that remove the grain from the monitors. Great. Let's go ahead and also do it for the CG plant. So we'll have another one. CG plant, astronauts. Let's go ahead and do them too. Okay, now they don't have grain. Great. For now, that's it. Let's just do those ones. Okay, so now we want to add grain back to just those things. So we're going to go ahead and bring back in, if you haven't already imported in the grain pass that we generated before, we'll go ahead and import that. I think I might have already had it here. There we go. Always make sure it's being interpreted correctly. Came out of this project as ACES CG. Delete this other one. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and bring this back on, up next to the other grain. Let me solo it so you can see it better. If we mouse over it and you look in the upper right in the info panel, you'll see that as we hover along it, you can see almost all the values, they're all hovering right around 0.5 because we used a 50% gray to generate this. And because we did it that way, we're going to be using the linear light blending mode. The best way I can describe linear light blending mode without knowing anything about how it functions under the hood is that 50% gray or a 0.5 value in linear light will not impact anything, but any values above or below will both brighten and darken respectively. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the other grain just for a second so you can kind of see what it's doing here. But if I turn that on and off, you can see the grain being applied. So what we're going to do now is we only want to apply it to the certain areas. And this is actually going to be really simple. All we have to do for this one is put a set matte effect on it. And we're going to source the other grain, the original grain bring back. And we want to use effects and masks. This way, it's actually going to utilize all those set mattes that we had already established for the other one. It's going to utilize those and do the opposite. I have to again hit invert matte. There we go. If I turn on and off this layer that I just added, it is now going to be adding grain to all the pieces that we told not to have grain on the other layer. Now you can see that it's way too intense. We can just start pulling down the opacity until we hit the right level so that you don't see any sort of seams between both. I think we nailed it right here around 33%. And now there's no more weird artifacting. You can see, especially here, looking at the screen, no strange artifacts on our screen. It's a nice continuous grain now across everything, all the work we've been doing. What's great about this workflow is that we're only putting the custom grain on the pieces we need to. I'm gonna go ahead and compare the screenshot of the original plate. Actually, you know what I'm gonna compare? In the very bottom of my comp, I still have the original plate, the one that has grain on it. I wanna get a screenshot of that actually. Screenshot of that, I'm comparing that against where we've landed at the very end. And if I zoom in closely, then you can see that the grain structure is identical. Nothing's changing in any of those places. The only place where it's changing is the place where we've actually added objects anyway.